Hi, welcome to this tutorial video on Harvard architecture. So what is Harvard architecture? So the key characteristic of Harvard architecture is that instructions are stored in different memory to data. So machine code instructions are stored in different memory to data. So where is Harvard architecture used? So nowadays Harvard architecture is used extensively in the design of computer systems with a specific purpose. So think of your embedded systems, for example. It's not generally used in the design of general purpose computers, such as the computer you may be watching this video on. Okay, so used extensively in embedded systems with a special purpose. Okay, so at the simplest level, this is Harvard architecture. We've got some input to the computer, we've got the CPU, and then we've got our data, the memory where our data is stored, separated from our memory where the instructions are stored. And notice that there are different buses being used by the CPU to access the data and access the instructions. Okay, so let's compare Harvard architecture with von Neumann architecture then. And if you don't know what von Neumann architecture is, have a look at my other tutorial video on von Neumann architecture. So what are the advantages over von Neumann then? Well, principally it's speed, and this sort of comes about because say the CPU is fetching an instruction. The CPU can fetch the instruction and the data that instruction is going to operate on at the same time, because it's using different buses here. If we're using von Neumann architecture, we'd have to use the same bus, so we'd have to fetch the instruction and then the data. Whereas if we're using Harvard, we can fetch those using different buses at the same time. Disadvantages then, we've got cost. So because we've got additional electronics involved in putting together a Harvard machine, so for example we've got additional buses, it's going to cost more to put together a machine in monetary terms because we're using more electronics. And the other primary disadvantage is its complexity to actually implement. We've got more electronics, as previously mentioned, and therefore it's going to be more complex to implement a Harvard architecture than a von Neumann architecture. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this tutorial video. Hope you found this tutorial useful, and thanks for watching.